We've gathered here to discuss the transformative power of social media in shaping the young minds, and not just restrictive to Odisha, but young minds overall. And this platform is taking Odisha as a cause because we all, some way, are connected to the state. And this platform is designed to reflect on the opportunities of social media that it offers, for innovation, networking, and empowerment. And while addressing all these pressing issues, we cannot forget on the fact that social media also has the other side of it. So together we are aiming to inspire a more thoughtful and a responsible digital engagement. Probably that might help us uplift our society. And it is an honor to have you all together with us, backing this event. And but right now, I would take this opportunity to invite the visionary chairperson of Odisha Positive, Advocate Sanjeev Mohanty, whose work has been absolutely instrumental in fostering the spirit of progress and positivity for last so many years, and especially for Odisha and the youth. So, Sanjeev, can you just take it further from here and share your vision with young Odisha?
Good evening, everyone. All of you are dear to me. Uh, by the way, I am born to Odia parents, brought up by Telugu and Bengali neighbors because I am born and brought up in Jamshedpur. So for me, Odisha reflects the spirit of India. Eastern part of India is Odisha, having all the resources, everything, mineral, forest, everything is there. Lord Jagannath is there. But somehow or other, during COVID time, we had a small WhatsApp group, Odisha Positive. In 2018, we started. So during the COVID lockdown, I was all alone. So I have taken it up to connect not only to my family, but to whole Odia diaspora all over the world, because I used to visit. I was in Facebook friend, my school, college, everywhere. So because I was all alone, so I didn't know how to cook and all YouTube. So social media, lots of engagements that day. That keeps me going. Somehow I connected though all alone here. As far as the cyber law parties, as I told, my guru is Mr. Sood. Of course, when I started in Odisha, the first seminar on cyber law in 2011, there was not, I don't think they have a cyber law sale or something. So 2010 or 11, I had a small seminar in Bhubaneswar started. It was organized by a NGO, local NGO called Aina Sneha Mishra, a good friend. So it was media covered and everything covered. So there was not much. There was one DPS, MMS incident. There are not much of case laws. Law was evolving, and it was like that. So it occurred to me, this apart from this Odisha, the law, technology, all these things somehow appealed suddenly when this Australian legislation came. And at the same time, today, because of Mr. Trump's again taking over as a presidency, which is Elon Musk is the prime mover, funder, everything, underwriters. So they are against the whole. I've been to Silicon Valley, I've been to Google and other places during my visit. So I saw they see it's a youth is a big market. So they don't want a digital, any restriction, any age limit. So we have all this. I will not overlap Mr. Soos and others, panelists, ideas and discussion. So I will pause here and welcome you once again to this wonderful evening. I hope all our panelists as well as the audience will. Moderator is Lori. She is taking care everything A to Z, from where this called Septipin to software, everything. Odisha, this young Odisha belongs to her and Rudanand, and of course Aditi and other people are associated. I am just a mentor. So let's start, gets going. thumbs up again. Thank you.
I think thank you,
And I
Sanjeev, for
forget
being
Jagannath is
good.
behind me, so Jai Jagannath to everyone. Thank you.
Jai Jagannath. I think we have Hrudanand, who is also one of the pivot of Young Odisha, and I would just ask him to share a little bit of idea and vision that he has, because, of course, Young Odisha means youth. So, Hrudanand, please come in and share what you feel about when we started Young Odisha.
Okay, thank you, everyone, and very good evening to everyone. First of all, Jai Jagannath from my side to all of you, and I hope you all are doing well. So, it's definitely a privilege and honor to be here today with such vibrant and passionate group of change makers at this panel discussion organized by Young Odisha, which is the Young Odisha is an youth forum, basically a Odisha positive organization. So the sole purpose and mission of this group, this organization is to aware about and it's basically the role of youth for the nation building and our responsibility for the motherland in every aspect. Okay, so I would just highlight some of the points of Young Odisha, basically an youth wing of Odisha Positive. So this dynamic platform dedicated to mobilizing the youth of Odisha towards the transformative changes. Okay, so the main aim is to inspire, educate, and empower young minds to play an active role in building a self-reliant, progressive, and inclusive society. Okay, so in this Young Odisha, we have presently now we are focusing like the Honorable Prime Minister of India is mainly focusing on the Viksit Bharat. Okay, so every ministry, every department, every PSU and corporates, every organization are working to make the India self-reliant Viksit Bharat by 2047. So, okay. Okay, so as a part of this, we have also Young Odisha. We have separated, and this is another body under the Odisha Positive. It's like to work in the field of skill development, social equity, environmental sustainability, digital India vision, global leadership, and also aligned with many factors to make the make the India Viksit Bharat as well as to make our own motherland as a Vikshit Odisha. Okay, so we normally believe that the youth are the architects of the Vikshit Bharat. So with their energy, creativity, and determination, so they can address. So this is the real purpose, and it was founded by Mr. Sanjeev Mahanti, and under his leadership and mentorship, now we have started working to make this India self-reliant and Viksit Bharat. And I feel so privileged to be a part of this incredible organization. And thank you, Lori.
Thank you, Rudanan. I think now the time has come that we've all been waiting for such a long time. And because we all know that the internet has been always as a pivot for communication, learning, and growth. But at the same time, as I already mentioned, that there are multiple challenges, especially for the younger generation, with the internet valuability. And today we are here to understand whether the buzz created all around with the Australian decision, India needs to adopt or need not adopt a legislation of this to protect the young minds, because that is what is certainly the danger of excessive usage of online media. And joining us this evening, to all my audiences, I would love to introduce our esteemed four distinguished panelists who would bring in their unique perspective to such a critical topic. So, without wasting even a minute, let me start. My first panelist is Senior Advocate by Supreme Court of India, Mr. Vivek Sood, sir. Mr. Vivek Sood is a Group A panel counsel for Ministry of Law and Justice, Government of India, and author to 8 books so far under renowned publication houses of the world. And his expertise, certainly in the cyber law and policy, will help us explore the legal ramification which is regulating, I mean, how we can regulate the social media through him. Next on board, we have Ms. Damini Chopra, a social influencer, model, and an actor. An alumni of literature from Harvard University. I'm really inquisitive to understand the glamour world, how it can, successfully bridge the gap for social media friend or foe. And now again, we have senior consultant psychiatrist, Dr. Sheikh Abdul Bashir, who's worked across India and the globe and taught under many, many prominent universities like Harvard and Jamia Islamia. And with his keen interest to understand the addictive behavior of human, I think Dr. Bashir's insight will play a significant role for us to understand the psychological impact of social media. And finally, we have with us a seasoned entrepreneur in information and technology, CMD at Xer Digital, Mr. Dev Dutt Modak. Mr. Modak is a chartered accountant and an alumnus of IIM Ahmedabad, and his experience in shaping the digital governance solution will provide us, of course, to understand the technology and the business part of usage and regulation of social media. So I once again welcome all four of you on board, and I'm really happy that in such a short span of time, you people have contributed, found out time from your hectic schedule. Thank you very much. To begin with, I would just start with a common question for everyone out there.
Just a minute. Our YouTube is also going YouTube live.
Yeah, we are also live on
that we can say.
Yeah. So a common question, but definitely I would like to understand it from the cyber or the policymakers probably. And Mr. Sood would be the right person to take up this question first. And so, sir, Australia's ban on social media under age of 16. I mean, we cannot shy away from the fact that technology has been evolving, and at the same time, it's becoming gradually negative. If I can reminisce the past for the past 5 to 7 years, we cannot forget on the challenges that technology has acquired the youth in a massive way. You talk about the ice bucket challenge, the blue whale challenge, the blackout challenge. I think each of them has taken the young mass into consideration, into confidence, and probably there have been many other different effects out of it. So we would like to understand from you that how do you think that Australia's stance on this particular thing? Should we follow the suit, or we should be opening up for some positive outcomes of it? I hope I'm audible to Vivek Sood, sir.
He's muted, basically. He's mute. Mr. Sood, you are muted. Please make yourself audible.
Please.
Am I audible now?
Now you are.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Fine. So I will deal with this issue at 4 levels. First of all, do we have the legislative competence to make a law similar to the law in Australia? Secondly, should there be a law at all? Should there be a law? If at all there should be a law, what should be that law? Should there be a, prohibition or a restriction, or what should be that law? And at the 4th level, would such a law be enforceable at the ground level? So addressing the first question, definitely in terms of the legislative competence, Article 15, Clause 3 gives that power to the state, to the government, to the parliament to make a law, to make special laws for children and women. And some of the laws that have been legislated, pro children, in favor of children, to protect children, include the Juvenile Justice Act or Prohibition of Child Marriage Act, Protection of Children from Sexual Offences Act, the famous POXO, just Child Labor Prohibition Act, and so on and so forth. So therefore, we have the legislative competence to make a law specifically for protection of children in the virtual world. It will not be discriminatory. It will not be violative of Article 14 of the Constitution of India, the right to equality, because the Constitution permits such a law. Now the second question, should there be a law? Yes, of course, we need a law. We need a law, and why? Why do we need a law? We need to protect our children from crimes like cyberbullying or sexual abuse, exploitation, stalking, pornography. Then we also need to protect our children on grounds of mental health. This digression from normal life that is caused by excessive use of social media, obsession, the reclusiveness that this is causing in the society. You find children locked up in their rooms, obsessed with the social media. Then the physical health issues also are important because of the obsessiveness with the social media, there is total lack of physical activity. So therefore, the second question is answered. Yes, we need a law. Now,
I think
the third question is what should be that law? Now, in my view, the law, first of all, should not be overbroad. So I will not want to copy paste the Australian model. It should be narrowly tailored. It should not affect the rights of adults. Now, what should be that law? For example, I would conceive of such a law that children, when they go to schools, whether we take the age as 13 or 16, definitely I am not in favor of 18 and 21. Today's adolescence is, I think, at 13 or 14. In schools, there should not be any usage of social media, mobile phones, smartphones. In libraries, or you must have filtering techniques. Filtering techniques should be there. Parental responsibility is one area where the legislation can enter the domain.
I think we can certainly, sir, consider. I mean, the points that you've raised are certainly huge.
In my view, definitely we need a law, but not on the Australian model.
Absolutely.
It's an overbroad law. We can't copy paste it in India. We can't enforce such a law at the ground zero level, at the ground level. It's impossible to enforce such a law. That's my take.
Yes, sir. And I think from there, we can, I want to throw this thing to Damini, because Damini, your niche has been always into the creation of content. You're someone who has, seen the other side of the coin. And for social media becoming a platform of probably self-expression, we can say, or connection, how do you think being a content creator yourself, how do you think that this should be applicable or not?
Thank you, Laurie and Aditi and Sanjeev ji, for having me. I think a lot of points that I would want to make have already been made by all of you. Sanjeev ji pointed out how social media helped him during the COVID lockdown. Okay, we talk about social media being a bonding place, but we all also know that during the lockdown, a lot of people reached out to people on social media for help with beds, transfusions, ambulances. And that helped save a lot of lives. Now, when you talk about young, impressionable minds, I'd like to pick up on something Mr. Sood said. He said that when youngsters are on social media, we take away from normal life. I'm all in favor of physical activity, but I think we will all have to agree that the definition of normal life has changed dramatically over the past 5 to 7 years. Career options like being an influencer and now a gamer are extremely well-paying, lucrative career options, which would only happen with social media. Having said that, I also know that as a community, Social media has also helped a lot of people achieve their dreams. Example, I recently went to Mathura, put out the story of somebody who did not have the funds but wanted to join the army. And somebody on social media reached out to us saying that, hey, I can help this person. Why don't you connect me? So we cannot forget the positive aspects. Agreed, young minds are impressionable, but they are impressionable in every way. You have to protect them from news also. I don't think blanket bans or keeping somebody away from their potential future would be the right way. Maybe parental guidance, teacher guidance is something I could agree with. But I think the way the future is going, you are future proofing them, and keeping a blanket ban is more harmful than beneficial.
Certainly, Damni, thank you. But here I would like to raise one point for our audience. We have different opinions from our different panelists based on their expertise and niche. So, absolutely, we have different opinions and we can take takeaways as per what we like. So, this is a pure disclaimer, and every expert has something to contribute here. And from here I would like to discuss this thing with Dr. Bashir, because I think mental significance or health, you might say, plays a very important role when we talk about envisioning these sort of mediums. So, because we all know that it has, as Damini said, it's a very integral part of our lives. But even researchers show that, that students or young minds, probably we cannot bracket them, but certainly every individual spends not less than 3 hours per day in social media. So how do you think that these sort of excessive impacts, the way it has doubled the expression, I mean, what sort of addictiveness are we approaching to? Is it similar and harmful as other addictiveness in our society, or what is the ratio and demographics of it?
Yeah, thank you again, Sanjeev sir and Lori and Aditi and Hridanand and young Odisha and Odia positive. As a doctor, somehow it always comes to us about the disorder or disability or difficulty happening with any area, and especially I am in mental health, so it will come to me, I know. And as Sanjeev sir also emphasized, that the issue is very big, and one topic we can go on, and I certainly agree with Damini about too many positive effects of internet, social media, and various forms. And there are every other day when the social medias are changing, and that way the impacts. But one thing is for sure that recently we are very much aware of. In fact, I have few patients directly, which we can term as addicted to social media or internet or something. Now, even that area is huge. Like somebody were talking about social media addiction. So suppose the social media addiction with Facebook may be different from Instagram, a bit. But one thing is also sure, that let us say that when it is alert, which is alarming. So one of the few very important point to look out, and which all of us is actually saying, let us just ask all those parents or those teenage boys or girls what they are going through. Okay, so it will be very clear whether it is an addiction or not. First of all, the definition of addiction is that somebody is going to repeatedly do the behavior which is already proven harmful to their future. So what lot of research has actually shown that, like naturally, most of the researchers in the Western countries, I can just give some numbers, like around 70% are into the social media more than 3 hours. There are at least 51% agree that it will be very difficult to take me off that. The girls affected more on social media. So now what are they doing? Like, like already it is harming in many ways. Like they are taking away precious time of those students. They are students. They have to prepare, learn some skills which will benefit all their life as a career. So they are taking themselves away from that. Number two, they are already taking away time from their physical activity, as Advocate Sood sir has just told. And they are alarming, really alarming. Just yesterday, I was going through the Rajya Seva TV, one of the very esteemed MP has raised this question about the lack of physical activity in the schools. And why this lack of physical activity in the schools suddenly? Because not only schools, lack of physical activity in the whole youth, because of more attention to the social media, and that is lot of use of a smartphone. So number one, another big thing has happened, like the impact is slowly growing very fast. That just before lockdown of COVID, it was not so prevalent. During the lockdown period, we have pushed our kids toward the internet and social media.
Yes, we have certainly
And
done that.
yes, exactly. And even now that many of the schools, even during this pollution era, it wasn't suddenly changed into online classes. So we'll give a mobile to the child for an online classes, and we'll say that you cannot see on social media. That is very difficult. And Mr. Sood has already pointed out it's really, really very difficult to do a legislation and actually practice it, find out the result. Okay, it
Especially
is
in
a
a country
process.
like-
At least we are discussing, and most probably we will try to gain experience from the Australian law. But another very big thing I'll try to tell you that there is a limit when not everybody who is using internet or social media is addicted. No. So very clear about some people are addicted. And that addicted part is very clear that they will neglect their
So
many of the positive things. Like
Yes,
they'll neglect the
we'll
family,
certainly come
they'll
to that
neglect their
aspect.
homework.
we'll
Yes.
certainly come to that aspect because
Yes. So I'll come to that.
Yes, and we have Mr. Modak with us, who has played a very significant role in the digital governance solution, and there, what I want to know is, right now at this point of time, every student or youth you talk about, probably, as I said, that there's no bracket to the usage of social media. So there's the point that is the fear of missing out, which we technically say that FOMA. So the fear of missing out is probably that part of technology where every individual is running after, and probably hence that equivalence to all those messes that comes around the social media. How do you think that, being someone from the board governance solution, what do you think can be a self-regulatory norm for individual, and it could also stand as an alternative to the legislature? So please unmute yourself.
Thank you very much, Lori. And of course, Sanjeev and Aditi and Vidanand and the Odisha Positive Group, thank you for this opportunity. And of course, thank you, Vivek Sood Sahab, for leading that discussion with the right kind of 4 questions that he asked. I'm going to possibly follow that tune, but in a sense, let me address first of all the question that you asked. I think the FOMO problem is a problem that is not only to do with internet access or internet usage. It is to do with almost everything that you experience in life. So this is not just to do with the internet. Let me turn the question just a little by addressing the 2 things that you said in the title of the discussion group, which is social media friend or foe. To my mind, and of course you're juxtaposing it with the Australian legislation, which is to do with children below 16 years of age. So I'm going to try and address those 2 sort of components with respect to what my answers should be. My sense is that basically trying to prevent access is going to be extraordinarily difficult, because children find ways to do almost everything that their parents don't want them to do. And that's normal. And that's exactly what we've done when we were children. So it's not abnormal to have that happen. What is really required is the design of a mechanism that will allow us to adopt and adapt things that we have done in the past. Okay, it's not difficult to do. It's not difficult to conceive. It's difficult to do. We've clearly, hopefully, prevented large numbers of children from consuming liquor and consuming tobacco right up till middle school, at least, by both education and by preventing people from selling. So there are ways in which you can do this. The legal part of the story Mr. Sood did handle. I'll give you a parallel in the governance space. SEBI is a regulator for corporate governance. and what they do is both promote information supply as well as constrain it. Okay, where there is a requirement to hold back information, they have created regulation around what is called prevention of insider trading, where they insist on the creation of a database where inside information is stored and not allowed to be leaked. People who leak it are penalized by, accessing their profits and actually imposing penalties on them. This is feasible. Of course, their remit is very small. There are, as you probably are aware, about 15-16 lakh companies in the country. Only 6,000 are listed, and only those are regulated by SEBI. Here we are talking about children from the age of 4, 5, 6 through till 16, which is what Mr. Sood mentioned, who need to be regulated, whose information access needs to be regulated. What we need to do is to create a body where there will be some kind of a filter creation. You cannot potentially ban, but there needs to be something that can create a filter where parents, educators, and government get together, and clearly parents who have parented children in that age group or beyond, then and then alone will there be real experience about what should be done and what should not be done.
I think that's a very well takeaway, that it should be a collaborative approach.
It needs
Not
to be
a single mode of communication can help us. And from here, I would, yes,
just one sentence. The internet is a hose. It's a hose pipe of stuff that comes down to you. And children, forget just children, anybody needs a filter. So what you really need is a tap. And who's going to put into that tap potable water is something that you need to figure out. I believe that it needs to be a clearly collaborative effort. It is not going to be the responsibility of government alone. It cannot be. It has to be the responsibility of parents, because till the age of 25, the human brain is physically growing.
yes.
Forget about 16. So you need to have parental,
Absolutely.
educator, and governments, all three collaborating to create a filter which will allow portable information to actually proceed towards children. Not everybody will drink from that tap.
I think from there, yes, absolutely. And from there itself, we understand that, as Damini also rightly mentioned, that we cannot ban. But again, if I just go back to what Mr. Sood said, so there are a lot of, if I just cut down on the youth section, there are a lot of cases under the judiciary where social media could have taken a good backbone, and like maybe a normal case or a high profile case where social media has stood as a pivot to give justice to that particular sound. So when we talk about all these criticalities and we understand that, okay, these are the pros and cons of social media, how do you see that could adopting such a sort of legislature like the Australia's online safety will pose an implementation of challenges in India, because we are again a diverse population and we are at the cutting edge of digital? How do you see towards that aspect?
So first of all, definitely, that India is a diverse country. We are an overpopulated country. Implementation is a challenge, will be a challenge. Secondly, again, I go back to the topic, friend or foe, social media. It is, I think, friend and foe. So, let's take it friend and foe. So you can't huddle them together.
Yes.
As my co-panelists have rightly said, that you cannot ban or you cannot take away the social media in its entirety. So we have to select, what we need to ban. And social media has its positives and the negatives. Like, for example, the usage of the internet. I am a hardcore criminal side counsel, defense counsel. So many criminal conspiracies today, murder 302, etc. They are being committed using the internet.
Yes.
And the smartphone. So therefore, you cannot per se, you cannot make a statement that internet is bad per se or social media is bad per se. I would want to bring in a law which imposes the concept of due diligence on different stakeholders. As Mr. Modak, my good friend, pointed out, for example, what is parental responsibility? Okay, you can have some kind of a legislation or a regulation.
Yes.
What is the responsibility, legal responsibility on schools, institutions, managements, etc.? Beyond that, a part of the negative aspects of social media will remain, will remain. And I repeat, you cannot copy paste the Australian model to the Indian model in terms of population, diversity. Every country, is a sovereign by itself. Okay. Now, banning social media per se in toto, maybe as a matter of legislative policy, maybe up to 8 years or something, you could say, so that the addictions that build up, that start building up at the age of 3 or 4 or 5, gets at least postponed, and maybe in the formative years, up to
That's
say
what they've done.
7
Yes.
or 8, there could be a kind of a ban, I would say. But beyond that 7, you cannot put these bans. Bans are no solutions. Liquor prohibition laws, they have been a miserable failure. So what you can't do lawfully, it goes underground, and you do that unlawfully. It breeds corruption, breeds criminality in society, all of that.
I think that's where we certainly. Yes, sir.
I would want restrictions to be extremely narrowly tailored. Maybe we can start with something, and then build and evolve, implement it, evolve. Rather than just banning something or following a certain model, just like that, copy paste.
I think that's absolutely what what, sir, you've mentioned. I'm supposed even our audiences, people who are listening to us, might agree to, because of course there is no solution to banning. But when we talk about the unfettered access of students or children, because that is the very micro level thing that cannot be judged. We cannot stop the unfettered access. And from here, I would like to take this to Damini, because as I already mentioned, that becoming a part of policymakers or tech companies and being someone who has been into a very pivotal role of creating content. The stats say, Damini, that 759 million population of today's time, probably 2024 is the data, and 70% of young mass consume content from social influencers rather than traditional celebrities. And at that point of time, when you think and see these massive figures, what come to you is, how can we refrain the content flow to such demeaning aspects, and how, being someone from the social background, someone who contributes into the social influencing part, how can you take a stance of giving that valuable content? What could you contribute towards the spreading of this awareness and ensure that there's a healthier content flow?
So this is a two-part question. I'll answer the first part, taking from what Mr. Sood said. Social media, friend or foe for children under 16. Sir, I'd like to draw an analogy here. It's like a car. To an under 16, if you hand them a car with a set of keys and they don't know how to drive, it's a foe. They will probably cause harm to themselves, lives, the other people's lives and property. But as they know how to drive it, it's a friend, because it will get them safely and securely from A to B. I do feel that the onus here is not on restriction, but more on education. The same thing that we sort of insist on. I don't have children yet, but what we insist on parenting today is not address topics, but to educate children on things like good touch, bad touch. Similarly, I do think educating children on what they are supposed to do and not do on social media is more essential than restrictions. Restrictions don't work. And like you rightly said, wherever we place a restriction, the human mind is such, the younger it is, the more curious it is. They will circumvent and find themselves in places they shouldn't, like probably places where they are going to be exploited, or probably places on the internet which they are not supposed to be on. So I would take the restriction out of it and put the education and guidance in it. Coming to the second part that Laurie said, Laurie, I do strongly feel about this. There is a very prominent author called Yuval Noah Harari. His team and I are working on a series of content to sort of bring about this awareness. I am already working on a lot of content, if you see my page, around what fake news is, because a lot of youngsters, like you rightly said, do not rely on traditional media. They turn to us for news. So I am trying to educate the audience on what is fake news versus real news, how they can spot it, how they can divide their time between being on social media and fostering connections outside of it to avoid brain rot. And the eventual aim with Yuval's page is to take it to a wider audience and hopefully in time work with governments to kind of push this incentive along with education in schools.
I think the aspect that you said about the analogy has been quite experiential part for people who are listening to us. And from there, when I talk about being involved in social media, it gives us a sense of happiness. And when it comes to students or young minds, Dr. Bashir might agree with me. So we have this dopamine effect when somebody praises us, when somebody bullies us. So there are certain hormonal effects on minds. Probably the vulnerability of the young minds and the peer pressure could become one of the stance that can instigate them to probably take a negative usage of what is happening. So how do you recommend parents to keep a balance between all of these, between what the children should handle and how at the same time respect their privacy?
I think that would be a question for Dr. Bashir, because
that's what I asked to Dr. Bashir. Yes.
So thank you, Laurie. And yeah, excellent. In fact, about the Australian law, I should thank that law that we are talking. Okay. Whether the law is needed, not needed, our esteemed lawyers and our knowledgeable panelists are telling here. But I, as a doctor, I admit that there is a problem. There is a huge problem. There is a huge problem, and the problem is like this. Not everybody who is using social media is addicted, but addiction is there. Okay. Now, with addictions, there are many problems. There are many problems. Let me not touch the legal problems like they are being bullied, they are being into pornography, they are being blackmailed or something. That is a lawyer's area. But let us coming to the brain area. Yes, there is actually similar picture has been found in the brain, those addicted to drugs. It is so alarming.
That's what.
And in human children, and as the young brain is growing at that, as Mr. Modak has just told, they are the most vulnerable. Now these changes are not temporary, just not a temporary dopamine surge, but there is a permanent plasticity change. So that change takes huge time. And the problem here comes like this, that at one point it starts like, okay, I'm going for pleasure. But the problem starts not there. The problem starts that now you need more time or more diverse involvement to get that same pleasure. But also the moment you stop this, you get withdrawal symptoms.
Yes.
You cannot function normally anymore. And there are a lot of functions to do at that age. That is the very formative years, where you again have just repeatedly, like to repeat this thing, that those formative years are the years when a child is learning some skills, which is going to give him a career in the future that needs his lot of attention, lot of time, which is totally usurped by this social media. So now what the parents, answer to your questions, the parents can do a lot. Why? We doctors will see a problematic children for a few minutes, maximum half an hour. The parents is seeing them 24 hours. So they have a huge onus on them, and they need to. Number one, really stop exposure to underage below 12 children. Like the many parents I have seen, that the children is not eating, they will put an sort of some music or something or some game in front of the children, a smartphone, and they will feed the children. From there it starts. That thing starts, you know that. So number one, restrict the time. And when it is coming to the teenagers, as Mr. Modak has just told, that yes, and Damini also told, most probably, both of you, that yes, the dialogue is more important. Respect your kids. Talk to them by like equal. So So talk to them, sit down with them, communicate with them that what are the pros and what are the cons. So alert them about the problematic, like there is something I have heard about, stress uh, presentation or stress uploading or something. Like, the kid is very annoyed and he put in an angry mood, he put something and then he regret later. And similarly, it is a very emotional control. They lost the emotional control. Somebody put a very intimate picture and then it got viral, and see the implication. So there are many like this. So first of all, we have to tell them, as again, I agree with Damini wholeheartedly, and Mr. Sanjeev has very initially told the power of social media. We are seeing here an webinar done through social media already. Young Odisha are doing a lot of things through social media. Excellent, clap for that. But what about the other part? So young children, they have to be protected. The first thing comes from the parents, from the teachers. Lot of restriction we need to have during the school hours. In fact, the American Psychiatric Society has already recommended that up to 12 hours, the social media exploration should be under supervision. And then coming to when 2 days back, I was seeing an advertisement of, what is that called? Very popular nowadays, Instagram. Instagram is already advertising that we have so many parental features to protect the kids. They know that young children, so they are also coming. In Facebook also there are. In Facebook there are filters. In YouTube there are filters, but intelligent people are there. Those who will try to sideline it. Okay. And one thing also good thing about
thinking.
Exactly. One very good thing about internet is that nowadays somebody who is doing a mischief can be traceable. Not only we are using the internet and we will not let it like a Frankenstein out of under control. Let us trace those mischief mongers and those bullies and all that. And of course, another thing comes to my mind that you do a law to ban the internet on the internet, and there is a dark internet, totally out of your control. So there is a big fight. But again, I tell you, at least this Australian law, a lot of thanks to that, and a lot of thanks to Sanjeev Bhai, that we are talking about it. And one of the most important point in anything is prevention is better than cure. So if the parents, if the school teachers, if the kids themselves, we alert them about the thing. So prevention, like instead of getting into the thing. Yes. I remember my late father very fondly now, that he had a very funny law in the house. Like my father will tell you that you are going towards on the right side of the house to play. You cannot play there for more than 7 days. You have to change your place. You go there.
Probably that has to be said.
He was aware of our addictive behavior.
Yes.
Or getting involved into something, So exactly same thing with the kids. And then not only we are preventing the kids don't go into the internet, don't go to the social media, but what alternative we are providing to them? How many physical activity areas are there in the cities?
That's where we as guardians or parents take an initiative.
Exactly.
And
reading books.
When we talk about a very manual mode of taking an initiation, as Dr. Bashir rightfully said, about the mental aspects, controlling your children or the young minds probably. We have certain aspects that Mr. Modak can actually clarify here. When we talk about the digital governance, because I, sir, personally representing my company also here, WebOdoctor Inc., we are a digital company. We every day deal with these aspects, whether in terms of clients, students, young minds, everyone. So we need to understand, as the digital governance space says, that 8 core elements justify the e-governance solution. When you talk about content, citizenship behavior, security access, and multiple more things. So how do you think that the tech companies like yours or probably many such stakeholders can envision these sort of guidelines when they serve the digital services to others? Because we have a massive audience category. We have a huge demographics to follow. So how do you think that the tech companies could participate in these guideline structures or policy making processes?
Great question, difficult answer. So, because clearly the technology is, like we've just said, I think it's both a friend and a foe. And it's very difficult nowadays, in fact, more difficult than ever before, and becoming more difficult with every passing day, as we have AI and now general AI coming up into the picture. Recently I heard Tom Friedman talking about deep mind, and it is difficult to have a picture right now which will allow us to say that we have actually wrapped our minds around the potential future nature of how technology is going to evolve. So the big thing, almost the only thing that you can actually do right now is to curtail. That's about the only thing that you can.
Technical team, please just mute.
Yeah. Okay. So so what you can control is yourself. You cannot control the net. You can only control those things that you have control over, which is essentially helping children to have lesser access, lesser screen time, greater parental responsibility and parental control. Those are things that can clearly be implemented. And while it's difficult to do, and there will be slippages, that is a whole lot more achievable than trying to tell the world that they need to do things better for the whole of humanity. That's not going to be something that you and I can do. The Australian law is clearly a good precedent for one simple reason. They are trying to take responsibility for doing something that will prevent badness from happening. Goodness and badness can both happen through technology, but at least if we can prevent access to stuff that is not appropriate. And who determines that? Like I said in the last round, basically you need to have a joint methodology where technology companies can help. To answer your question, we can help to create filters for information flow, which will allow for clearly banning, or not banning so much as controlling. I mean, from rudimentary stuff like keyword based access to and prevention of release of data, to a lot more AI oriented retention of data and prevention of data from leakage. Both those things are possible, but there is no known technology right now which will give you a solution in an overnight fashion. That's not feasible.
Yes.
We just haven't come to grips with the quantum of data that we are pumping into the internet right now. The statistics are mind-boggling. Every single month we are creating more data than the whole of humanity has created for the whole of history. Okay, this is what is happening right now.
And digital has given us that space undoubtedly,
exactly,
and that liberty to create the data. And that is why
we have the technology, which we do have. We can hopefully prevent access.
Yes.
Which is the only thing. Because what are we trying to say to children? Till you come to the point where you have the sagacity to judge, let us not try and bludgeon you with stuff that you don't even know how to handle.
I think here, because we are approaching towards the end of little bit of session,
so
Yes.
Last thing that I would like to say is the filtering is the most important thing that we can and should do.
Yes.
And the law will probably help us implement that by making not the same law, but a similar law of the kind that maybe people like Mr. Sood can hopefully develop, which will allow for a regulator to be created who will then put in place things that educational institutions can adopt, parents can adopt. Screen time is ubiquitous. What he said is a horrifying. I mean, at every place one travels, children are being, mobile phones are being shoved in front of them, and their minds, there is the Nobel laureate, what is this? Eric Kandel. He has explained, this is something that I'm taking from Dr. Sheikh, but memory is the glue that binds our mental life together. We are who we are in large part because of what we learn and what we remember. This is the Nobel laureate 2000 talking. And this is exactly what we need to help these kids to actually acquire decent, good memories. And by preventing bad stuff from getting to them, we can potentially do that. You can create a regulator with these three people collaborating is what my humble submission would be.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. That would certainly help me as someone dealing with these aspects regularly. And because we are running short of time, so I would just like to open up a few Q&A from our elite audiences, if they might be interested to raise a question. I think we have Aditi with us. And Aditi, if you can just ask your query.
Thank you, ma'am. So I have one question. It is mainly addressed to Bashir, sir. So we were talking about the dopamine effect that social media provides us with, and as students, I think we are often caught up with a busy schedule of handling assignments and certain, extracurricular that we're trying to do. And social media turns out to be a way of escapism, and mindless scrolling happens a lot. So we were discussing this from a parental point of view. So since a lot of students here have joined, I would like to ask you some solutions for this. Like as students, how can we prevent that? How can we prevent from falling into the dopamine trap?
So, one thing is very clear, as I have told you, that our students should be informed first that there is a trap. They don't even know that there is a trap. So, how to prevent that trap? That how addiction is again, as Mr. Modak was already trying to tell, that there should be some restriction. So, the restriction of hours. So, usually to my patients, like this such youngsters who comes to me, number one, I tell them that their parents too, there should be a negotiation that you can have the phone for 1 hour after you complete your homework.
Great idea.
Yeah.
Then below 12 years, no concession that you have to do whatever is scrolling in front of me. At the same time, I always agree with Damini madam about the positive parts to attract the kids toward the positive parts, and that will still allow them that a smartphone. You know, the FOMO, they wanted to be that I have a smartphone. I am into the things they're doing. So do the things which are positive. What are they? They can connect the people with similar hobbies like painting or songs, upload the songs, and make such groups, encourage such groupings. And then from the parental side, another big issue is that internet is also indirectly putting a stress level very high, but taking away the sleep. So stop any gadgets 2 hours before sleep for the kids. Even adults I recommend, and students like you. And I should say again that always prevention is better than cure, and that's why the prevention goes start with education. Suppose how many schools have a class where there is a computer class, but does they have a class where they will have at least one lecture telling what are the pros and cons? Like there is a class on sex, good touch and bad touch. What about a class about not sharing your intimate information? What about a class don't use the, even so many adults don't know when to share their password or number of a bank or etc. etc. So there should be information, lot of information, many types information, and now let us take it seriously. The Australian has done a very good thing that making us very serious about it. Let's be serious.
I think, Aditi, your query must have been well addressed here. And
Yes,
to
thank
just
you.
come to a quick closure of this discussion, I would like to understand from the cyber law expert, Sood sir, and this is a common question for everyone. With all these legislation and responsibility coming together, how do you think, or what aspect do you think that India as a nation should take to bridge the responsibility factor, legislation factor, plus the freedom of expression in crafting social minds or young minds?
That's a very good question. I would like to see a balance between the three. Freedom of speech and expression at the highest. Restrictions at the minimal. They should be minimally tailored so that they don't eat into the freedom of speech and expression. Even if it leaves some obnoxious branches alive in the society, crime has always existed, wrong has always existed, coexisted with the right. So minimal restrictions. I would agree with Damini when she said that education should be the primary focus. I would agree with Mr. Modak that filtering, I would say, some kind of, due diligence, responsibility on different stakeholders, parents, schools, managements, internet service providers, etc., etc. And then I would agree with Mr. Bashir also when he said that you have to force restrictions down the throats of the younger children, of small children. I have been a parent. My children were growing up. It was very difficult to tell them, no, you must do your homework first and leave the mobile phone. They create a lot of ruckus at home. So then, as a father, one would say, "Arey, koi baat nahi yaar. Come on, just give it to them." And the mother would say, no, this can't happen. So these things will continue, but I guess effective parenting is the ultimate answer, in my view, not law.
I guess we are actually having too many questions from our audiences. We are so inquisitive to understand.
Sorry?
We're actually having too many questions from our audience. It's a great part of the session. And yes, and I think we have Mr. Akshay Mohanty, who's joining us from the US, and probably he has a question. If the tech team can just unmute him. Sanjeev, am I audible?
Yes. Akanksha
Mohanty. Okay. She's joined us from the US and she has certain questions. So please.
No. She is not from US. That is different name. Akanksha, if you are there, or anybody else, Dr. Anupama Patra or Prabhati
Panigrai from Australia.
Dr. Prabhati Panigrai from Australia, please. Already odd time. We are having
mentioned a lot of time. Yeah. So Dr. Panigrai, can you please raise your question to the panel?
Somebody's phone ringing. Hello.
Yes, bro.
Hi. It's nice. Actually, I joined halfway. Maybe I missed the first part. It's a very interesting topic, to be honest. I'll take my video off if it's okay. Regarding the Australian social media, it is a lots of effort been given and lots of research been done. And it's a very brave and courageous step, to be honest. And Dr. say from the social psychological aspect and as well as cyber law and practical aspect. But if you reduce the time, I think you are reducing the dose of the drugs itself. So that is one step. Other thing, we spoke about parenting, and I 100% agree with the parenting part and the education part. I just want to know, how will educate parents first before reaching to students and children? Isn't that the first step we should do? Because I see the adult addiction is also equally very, very dangerous and negative.
I think Dr. Bishi can take up this question right now. There's some technical glitch probably in the audio.
Yeah, so the very, I should say, a good question. Like naturally, we are talking about kids, and naturally, when we talk about kids, the parents will come pulled in. Yes, I agree with you that the parents has to be first of all sensitized about the danger lurking. Many of us, it was so fast growing this internet. In a blink of eyes, it is jumping to something else. Now we are hardly trying to get adjusted with social media. The AI has come, as Mr. Modak has just told. So there has to be more information flowing to the parents about the dangers and regular. As always, I also agree to our advocate Sood Saab that good and evil has always persisted. So always in response to the something bad expected, a good group will grow together. So we can have something on the social media. We can have a parent group where we can discuss properly. In fact, it was recommended by me, but many of the kids where there is a teenage issue, which Mr. Sood was telling that in teenage there is a huge ruckus at home, every home rather, using phone and all that. So what happens that the parents should have a club, and what the parents should talk with each other about their own kids. And sometimes, the excellent way to know about your own kid is talk to his best friend of his age group, because lot of these kids they follow the peer group. So talk to the peer. And in the same flow, I had a very interesting question there in the message that somebody has asked about internet gaming. The most interesting part is that social this site addiction and all that, it is not yet taken interest of the psychiatrists as yet. In the diagnostic and statistical manual by the American Psychiatric Society, till now only behavior addiction is accepted is the gambling addiction, but special interest has been given to internet addiction.
Yeah.
And to answer to that particular question, if there is a treatment, in the beginning I have told that there is a direct similarity has been found in the biological changes in the brain between drug addiction and internet addiction or any other addictions. So they can be treated biologically, but most important, they can be treated with a very good psychotherapy. And one of the very important one is cognitive behavior therapy.
I think that's very well answered, and I hope Dr. Prabhati has well consumed this, and it could be of great help to her as well.
No, thank you so much, because I do work in this sector in the psychosocial.
All right. So I think to the last we are ending, and I would just like to take a quick short wrap up from Damini and Mr. Modak on what Mr. Sood said as a closure round about the freedom of expression and striking a balance in bringing on the legislature. Just a quick wrap up, Damini.
Go ahead, Damini. You are the lady.
Thank you, sir. To quickly wrap up, I will just bring to light two examples. One was a few years back, a young boy put a video on YouTube, and today we know him as Justin Bieber. More recently, a girl from Odisha got picked up as a K-pop sensation. The college youngsters might know this better than me, all through social media. So we definitely cannot ignore the benefits it would bring to such careers that start at an early age and otherwise have very high barriers to entry, like acting, singing, maybe fashion design, and all such other things. I do believe that there needs to be a lot more of education and communication. I do not think that in the way society is structured right now, a lot of restriction goes down well. But I agree with Dr. Bashir that parents, teachers, guardians can definitely set in some discipline so that the discipline carries forward and does not turn into an addiction. That's right.
I don't think there's too much more. Not too much that I can add to that. I have been very much in agreement with that thesis. My own son is now a gamer, not a gamer so much as a game designer. And he works for a very large game design company in Canada. And I am guilty for having introduced him to games when I was traveling back and forth from the US to here, and I showed him the Game Boy and things like that. But the point really to address your question is, how do I control access to deleterious inputs from social media? And I don't have a straightforward answer, except to say, like Pravati was asking, how do parents get educated? I think there are people who can learn from other parents, and there is a beautiful YouTube and a book that I would heartily recommend called The Last Lecture. It's called The Last Lecture by a former professor of Carnegie Mellon University, where he talks about how his dreams he could achieve. That's a simple way of looking at the whole method of acquiring information, which he did, and which at CMU, which is one of the leading universities in the world on information technologies, if this man was doing things, he's clearly done things in a way that all other people can also look at and emulate. My simple example to myself is, if my son is doing a good job and he's doing something that he is capable of earning a living from this particular kind of activity, it isn't all bad. But clearly the filtering and the control is a huge responsibility. My wife, thank God I have her in this picture, because you don't bring up children alone. So she was primarily responsible, like I think to controlling the access to screen time. That clearly is a learning that most of us need to have. Screen time control is the biggest and most important input that we can give ourselves.
I think absolutely we have served the purpose of why we all accumulated each other here and shared the common space, and because today's discussion has been an eminent potential one, probably because each has a different opinion. Everyone is in the same page, yet the directions are a little bit up and down because of respective expertise. But as I always say, that social media is a double sword tool, and therefore it has always been so years ago, and I'm sure it's going to happen even years down the lane. And as everybody's word what have been very very precise, and I would just take the keynotes of it, which Modak sir said that you have to have a collaborative approach. Damini rightfully suggested that education is the most important part, and you cannot just draw away your hands by banning things. And when we talk about Bashir sir, who rightfully mentioned that you have to have restrictions, regulations done by individual. And as our expert, cyber law expert, has rightfully guided us in that legislation part, it might take difficult stances to get that stature improved into the constitution or into any of the legislatures. But definitely a ban is not a solution. Cutting down the edges can definitely become the rightful way to make social media a friend and foe. Probably I can get it right, and I would like to bring in Aditi to give the vote of thanks to everyone.
Thank you, ma'am. So I would like to extend a heartfelt vote of thanks on the behalf of the entire team at Young Odisha, to express our gratitude to all those who have been present in this insightful webinar today about whether social media is a boon or a bane in today's world. Firstly, I would like to extend heartfelt thanks to our distinguished speakers for their valuable time and contribution. Your expertise, engaging insights, and thought-provoking discussions have certainly deepened our understanding about the legislations and ethics involved in the impact of social media. A special mention to the organizers behind this event, Odisha Positive and Young Odisha, that have consistently worked towards connecting Odia diaspora and youth across the globe. Through their tireless efforts, Odisha Positive and Young Odisha provide a platform to share ideas, foster collaboration, and strengthen the bond between the Odia community and empower the youth in dynamic ways. Young Odisha also aims to conduct more such events in the coming year in offline setting at Delhi NCR. So we would urge you to stay connected for further updates. And all in all, thank you so much, everyone, for your participation and the engaging discussion that we had. And I hope this entire discussion has left you with food for thought. So we're all able to navigate the world of social media in a more responsible manner.
And I'm glad that we have humongous students joining us with these expert advisors or panelists, I would say. Thank you so much on behalf of Young Odisha and Odisha Positive. We hope we certainly stay connected for the physical event there at Delhi NCR. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Thank you to our audiences who have joined. Thank you very much.
Once again, Joy Jagannath to everyone.
Jai Jagannath.
Young Odisha and Young India.
I would quickly take a time to thank the technical team as well, who've been there at the office managing the entire core. So thank you to WebOdoctor, even though it's my company, but I still know that my team is working there. So a small little appeal to everyone, please switch on your camera.
It was great to connect with everyone.
Thank you.
All the panelists and all the organizers.
Totally.
Thanks everyone for
Please
sparing
switch on
their
your
valuable
camera.
time for this interaction.
And we'd love to meet you someday. Sure.
Thank you.
Not as a patient. Thank you, Lori.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. I hope we take a picture out here.
Yes. Everybody should switch on. All the panelists, everybody. If
Food service provider after.
okay.
everyone. See you.
Thank you.
Good night.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Thanks a lot.
Bye.
All the best. God bless.
Thank you.
रुक जाओ सबको जाने दो फिर आप एंड कर